Hey everybody, Patrick here from Martin Motorsports & Co. We're starting episode 3 of the RAV4 3S GTE build, and we're doing it strong with the manual transmission swap portion. I will say this video is a little bit more sporadic than I would have liked, just because I shot this over the period of about 2 weekends, and a lot of stuff I kind of forgot in between there. Uh, but this is going to go over kind of the nitty gritty, the basics of what you need to swap your RAV over to a manual transmission. I don't go into detail as far as how to put the actual transmission and transfer case together with an engine in the car or anything like that. This specifically deals with the hard parts. So where you need to drill for your master cylinder mounting and clutch mounting, where you need to basically cut a hole through in the firewall to get your shifter cables mounted, and how everything goes together. Overall, it's not a super intensive swap. There isn't a whole lot of cutting needed to be done. Toyota does make it kind of nice that they have little stamped measures inside the firewall and inside the car itself on where you need to cut, but it's still not exactly something I would say that you can just do with basic hand tools. So the things you're going to need, first off, you're going to need a manual transmission and the manual transfer case to match. You can't use your automatic transfer case. You also need a manual shifter with OEM shifter cables, and make sure your shifter cables come with the grommets, because those are incredibly hard to find. The cables themselves are not cheap. I think I paid about $200 for my cables, and they came with the shifter base, so I got lucky there. You're also going to need a manual ECU if you're not like me and you're doing a 3S GTE swap and you're just keeping the stock 3S FE in the car. You will need the ECU to match. And I believe the last thing you're going to need really is just the normal replacement parts. So you will need your clutch master, your clutch slave cylinder, all the hydraulic lines needed for the clutch. You're also going to need a manual and a manual brake pedal and the clutch pedal to go with it. But that is really all it takes. I think I'm probably $700 total into this swap. That's including buying the transmission and transfer case from a wrecking yard and buying the clutch parts brand new. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hey everyone, Martin Motorsports & Co. here. This is going to be another short little episode here on the manual swap part of the RAV4 3S GTE build. So as we've been talking about, and as I'll remind everybody, the RAV4 that I'm building is a 99 RAV4L 5-door. It is an automatic transmission equipped vehicle, and with the rather uncertainty on whether or not the automatic transmission could handle the power of the 3S GTE. You know, these cars were rated, I think, at like 120, 125 horsepower, somewhere in that range, and the Gen 4 3S GTE is rated at 260. So it's a big power jump. We are end up going to swapping this over to the RAV4 5-speed manual, the E250F, which is a well-known transmission to handle the kind of power we're going to produce. So a couple things here. If you're like me and you've got your automatic transmission right there, your selector stock there, to take the console out to get to the bolts to remove the shifter, you're going to have your, there's two Phillips head screws. There's one here and one right there. They're not very big, so you don't have to use a very big screwdriver. And then, depending or not, if you have the big center console add-on that goes here, that actually part of it sits over this little cup holder there, you will have to open it there. And there's two Phillips head screws in there, and then one in the center of it. That whole assembly just pops right off. And then it's just a matter of kind of finagling it free from back there, and it will come out and leave you with this. I'm going to see if I can put this on a wide angle. There we go. So this is the transmission tunnel, for lack of a better term, on the RAV4 with the console removed. So as you can see, we've got our shifter right there with two bolts in the front, and what looks to be, I believe, two bolts. Let me see if I can get it in there. Yep, two bolts there, and our wiring harness for probably the neutral safety for some sort of sensors on the transmission. I almost said neutral safety switch, but this is an automatic. Why would I need a neutral safety switch? So I've already disconnected the cable, and by disconnecting I mean I cut it free from the transmission, because this car is never going to be an automatic again, and I don't think these really are any valuable, but oh well. So I'm going to unbolt that. I have a manual console with a manual shifter and the cable's ready to go, so I'll be let me get this undone and we'll move on and I'll talk about what's next. All right, so we've got the shifter removed out now. As you can see, there's four, like I said, there's 4 bolts that hold the whole shifter assembly in place. There's 4 of these guys, 12mm bolts there. Come on, focus. There it goes. And then you just have to pull your cable through the bottom of that little grommet there. I already cut mine from the bottom, so it came out fairly easily. And then for the shifter cables, I'm told I'll have to make some room up there with a notch or a hole to run there. I've got the bracket and everything needed, so I'll probably just self-tap it and when I cut the hole. As far as I know, that is the only thing needed for the shifter cable to make them work. Toyota was pretty smart in the way that this all pretty much bolts together the same way. The only difference obviously being is where they route the cables for the automatic transmission shifter versus the manual transmission. And then I do have the brake and clutch assembly for the manual swap there, so I can get rid of the big automatic brake pedal. But yeah, we're going to go around to the front now. I'm going to show you kind of what else is needed, and we're going to go from there. Alright guys, welcome back. So, what we got done, and this video is going to be kind of choppy because I've shot it over multiple weeks here, but we've got our clutch pedal in. So, for those of you who are going to undertake this auto to manual swap, you will have to cut a decent amount of the insulation here. There is a kind of a little cutout in the factory firewall here where your manual where your clutch pedal would go and your clutch master. So if you follow the little dimples there, you can kind of see where it is. But it really only has one way it can go because the clutch master is also mounted sideways. So you're going to get an M8 by 1.25 nut for both of those, and then you'll need to get another 8mm bolt to go through and to actually actuate the clutch pedal. I don't have everything tightened down, so that's why you see a little bit of deflection there. And you'll have to cut around this area here. Now this will be kind of tricky because you'll look at it and the back of the firewall will be flat, but as you can see there, clearly there's a big curve there. There's 2 sections of the firewall, so you'll have to cut through the flat section first, and then you'll see right there where you need to either take a angle grinder or a die grinder and get in there, which is what I'll do on the next episode here. But we got our manual console in. I don't have the cables routed yet because obviously I need to cut through that, but I was just kind of mocking where everything needs to go. But yeah, that is how to do kind of the manual swap so far. I will add another part to this once I get closer to actually putting the engine in. But we are getting close. I sent the wiring harness off to Doug at Wire Gap, and should be getting close to it. I sent that about 2 weeks ago, so we are getting very, very close. I'm excited. I will make a modification to the automatic brake pedal here. I'm probably just going to lop this end off because this end is pretty strong over here. It's a lot of work to try and get that brake pedal out with it still attached and everything. I just don't want to screw with it, so I'll lop that off and have somebody come here and fabricate something there. But even then, it's not, like, the pedal distance is not too bad already. I do like the Toyota kind of centered it more on this side, so I might just lop this end off. But yeah. Okay, so we're on the passenger side of the vehicle now. You can see I've got my hole cut for the shifter cables to go through. I'll be throwing some pictures up here to show you kind of how I marked a little bit. But ultimately, right where that little divot is about where you need to cut there. If you got OEM shifter cables, you should have a bracket like this which will help align them. And luckily, even though I cut thrice and measured once, that guy is going to sit right over my nasty hole there, and I'll fill in the gaps with some seam sealer. But that's about how it should look. So with that being said, this is going to conclude the manual swap portion of the RAV4 3S GTE build. This is really all I had to do. I'll throw some pictures up with what a completed project should look like. And yeah, I appreciate you guys following along as always. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks.